Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from. We want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today for our webinar. No one can empower you but yourself. I'm Elizabeth Fernandez-Cuervo, Senior Marketing Manager at IEW. For those of you who are not familiar with IEW is a global in-person and online professional networking platform. We provide women with a forum, education, and services to thrive in an interconnected world, to ultimately help either grow their career or grow their business. Before we jump in, I've got a few reminders. Everyone's on mute. We'll answer questions at the end of the presentation. You can submit any questions you might have on the tab below your viewing screen. We are also recording this session and we'll send it out after the presentation. I'm very excited to introduce today's speaker, Regina. Regina is a founder and CEO of Transform Your Performance. Drawing from her extensive corporate and entrepreneur experience across 5 continents, Regina is a transformational leadership coach and transformational consultant for inclusive diversity with a passion for inclusive leadership, co-creation, and dance. She is an international inspirational speaker and the author of a book, Speak Up, Stand Up, and Shine, and your conversational intelligence enhanced skills practitioner. With her signature process, Power for Leadership Transformation, Regina focuses on driving fast results for her coaching clients by emphasizing on an empowering mindset and their distinctive uniqueness and a compelling, confident presence, enabling them to accelerate their career while making outstanding contribute to their organization. Regina speaks 5 languages and has over 18 years of international experience in the corporate business world across U.S., Europe, and Latin America. As an entrepreneur, Regina has owned businesses in Argentina and Brazil. Without further ado, Regina, would you like to take it from here?
Yes, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your warm introduction and for having me on. It's inspiring to be here with you all today. So let's kick this session off by figuring out what empowerment really means. When you Google women's empowerment experts, so I put in women's empowerment experts in the Google search line, you get 30,400,000 hits, and that's only in English. And a lot of these Google results are about economic empowerment, which really is about resources and education. And I know we all use the word and the term women's empowerment, and sometimes I use it too, for lack of a better word. But every time I hear someone say women's empowerment, or I hear myself say it, I cringe a little. Women's empowerment sounds to me as if women were powerless and as if our power somehow depended on others, as if it had to come from an outside source. But that's absolutely not true. Yes, we need resources and a system that supports our success, of course, just like everyone else. The thing is, men already have that for the greatest part. And that's really the only difference. Because what we need is not a power injection from a magic needle. What we need are resources, investment, a women-friendly corporate and organizational environment, entrepreneurial environment. And in some places, women still don't even have access to education, to digital technology, or to a bank account, basic human rights. So what we need from our environment is all of this, which in a word is actually gender equity. So maybe women's empowerment should be called human rights and resource provisioning. That could maybe be a better term, but our power certainly doesn't come from someone else. Our power comes from within. So I'm asking you, when it comes to your empowerment, shouldn't you be the expert? Because no one can truly empower you but yourself. The fact is, we women are already powerful. We just don't always feel powerful because some of us have been educated out of our power, and we've seen so many men in power positions for so long and so few women. And so some of us, we're just not aware or not completely aware of the tremendous power that's inside of us, or we don't know how to use it. And there could be many reasons for that, of course. One reason is that we may need to change the way we think about power. I think we all agree that power is not the same as force. That's quite obvious. And it's certainly not the same as a power position. Real power is never power over others. Real power is inner power. And I'm sorry, something's going on here in the house. I'm sorry for that. And so our real power is never power over others. Real power is inner power. And of course, a power position, a leadership position, helps us women to use our inner power to influence or make an impact and create that positive change in the world that we want to see. And women in leadership positions can create positive change in corporations, organizations, on boards, in politics, or as entrepreneurs, as artists. So yes, we need more women in power positions, which I prefer to call leadership positions for the reasons I just mentioned. However, we can also be powerful without a leadership position, without being high up in the leadership ranks in any capacity, but only when we are connected with our inner power and when we can truly feel it and when we tap into it. And once we use that power for our own success and that of other women, it creates a ripple effect, and we start creating waves. So we all have this unlimited power inside of us. We are just not always connected with it. And when we're not connected with it, it's like when we're trying to use a TV set without plugging in the power cord. Power energy cannot flow. So in order for us to switch on our inner power, we must first plug in our inner power cord so our power energy can flow. So how do we do this? There are many ways, and they have to do with a number of factors. Some are related to our energy and to our body, or what I call in my work, a body conscious presence. And others have to do with our mind, our spirit. And in my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, I share several different ways in which we can connect to our inner power. And this is critical for speaking and for meetings and sales calls and any of those challenging situations that we all face in business on a regular basis. And this book is available on Amazon as Kindle as in print. So today's session, we're going to focus specifically on how to empower ourselves through our mindset and our heart set. This is what I call empowering mindset or self-empowering mindset. And it's one of the main pillars of my process, Powerful Leadership Transformation, or PLT, that I take my clients through. And this is an overview of that process. And heart set is an integral part of mindset, and I'll tell you more about why in a few minutes. But first, let me share why I'm so passionate about championing brilliant women like you to step into their full potential and into their full power. After many adventures, while I was living in several different countries and continents, just when I thought I'd move to my dream location on this planet, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, I went through the most painful lesson of my entire life. But let me back up a little bit and take you on a journey so you can understand who I am and where this experience is even coming from. And I'm literally going to take you on a trip around the world. So I grew up in a tiny little village in Germany after a farm, and after finishing school, I moved from my little village to Munich, where I discovered my passion for dance. And it started with salsa dancing, and from there I moved abroad for the first time to Spain with the Boston Consulting Group, where I was working at the time. And in Spain, it was also where I was offered my first leadership position. And later I opened offices for BCG, for the Boston Consulting Group in Portugal and in Brazil. And everywhere I moved to, I learned my lessons. Of course, also dance lessons, but mostly career lessons, life lessons. But I didn't always move with a job. Sometimes I moved to another country and even to another continent with just a dream. Like in 2005, when I left my well-paying job at BCG in San Francisco, and I moved to Argentina to open a bed and breakfast in Buenos Aires. Yes, I also danced tango, and I even translated 10 books on tango there, and I could tell you a bunch of adventure stories that come with that chapter of my life. But I know we have limited time today, so I want to talk about one thing specifically. And what I want to talk about today is corruption, because it taught me so many valuable lessons for what I do now. Because as an owner of a bed and breakfast in Argentina, I also had to deal with corruption. At one time, I was fined by the city of Buenos Aires because I hadn't paid off their corrupt hotel inspectors. And even though it looked as if I didn't have a chance, as one woman standing up against a huge, entire corrupt system, giving into corruption was just not an option for me. It would have meant to fall out of integrity. So at the time I risked the fine, I contested it, and I defended myself in court. And I was really lucky that there was a female judge, and she was not up for colluding with corruption. And so I won the case, and I didn't pay the fine. But most importantly, I stood up for myself and for my values, and I didn't let myself be intimidated. And I showed up with power, and I stayed in alignment with my values, and I stayed in integrity. Later, I moved to Brazil, and that was for the second time in my life, and this time to Rio de Janeiro. And I loved Rio. I loved the ocean, the climate. I loved the tropical climate and the vegetation. And of course, the samba dancing, and especially samba de gafieira, which you may not even have heard of. It's an amazing partner dance, and if you're interested in dance, I suggest you look it up on YouTube. And it felt like this was where I was truly meant to be, and where I might spend the rest of my life. And the plan was to open a dance and wellness studio. And for this business, I partnered with someone for the first time in my life. But guess what? Not a good idea. The guy turned out to be fraudulent, and this eventually cost me my business, a business in which I'd invested 2 entire years of my life. And it cost me a big part of my savings, and which I had invested all my career, basically. So I lost a bunch of money, and with my business, I also lost my investor's visa, so I couldn't even stay in the country anymore. It felt as if I'd given my power away to this business partner. And it didn't only cost me my dream. At the time, it also cost me my confidence. And it felt as if my whole world was falling apart. And I felt completely defeated and desperate. I will never forget that feeling. And it took me a while to realize that this painful lesson was a blessing in disguise. It taught me so many things, but most importantly, it taught me to take full responsibility for the experience itself, for this reality that I had created for myself somehow, and for my entire life. And I had 2 choices. I could have stayed in victim mode and suffered, or I could pull myself together and step out of victim mode and into a self-empowering mindset. I knew I had to take my power back so I could learn my lesson and move on from it. And as you may have guessed, I went for option number 2, right? So I did opt to step into my power. And this allowed me to break free and leave the handcuffs of my self-limiting mindset behind that I wasn't even aware of up until then. And from then on, my life would never be the same. Because when we step into an empowering mindset, we know that when we fall, we can always get up again. And we realize that every single experience is an opportunity to grow, and we can leave our shackles and get rid of that baggage that's weighing us down. And every single person that crosses our path can now become our teacher. And in hindsight, of course, this experience was the greatest gift I've ever had. It opened up my awareness in a way that I would never have suspected at the time. Ever since then, I've been focusing on a self-empowering mindset and moving steadily forward. And the first step was to move to New York, which was the next step in my journey. And this experience also sent me on a different type of journey, a journey to deep self-discovery. It had me rethink my entire life and how it all fit together, and my experience and background up until then had been very eclectic, but somehow I didn't know how it would all fit together. So I really had to rethink everything and what was going to be my next step. So that was the biggest question at the time. And I had gotten to a point where I really needed to figure out what my next chapter would be. Where would I be living even? And my next chapter turned into my current business, a Transform Your Performance practice, where I offer transformational leadership coaching and consulting to my clients. So why is self-awareness so important? It helps us understand ourselves better. And that, of course, also helps us understand the role of other people in our lives better and their role as teachers and their role in our effort to help us grow. And it also helps us to have compassion with ourselves, be nicer to ourselves, treat ourselves better, practice self-care. Yes. And it helps us respect ourselves more, rather than being such harsh critics of ourselves. Trust our intuition more, which also has to do with the heart set that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. It helps us have faith in our own abilities rather than relying too much on other people. And it helps us see the lessons in our setbacks and learn the lessons and use our setbacks as stepping stones to our next level. Self-awareness also helps us recognize our innate power, our inner power. So you can have all the resources in the world, money, top-level education, connections. And again, I'm not saying resources and connections are not important. Of course they are. But if you do not have a self-empowering mindset, all the resources in the world are no guarantee that you will succeed. And in fact, we know that some of the most successful people had a childhood that wasn't very promising, and they started with close to zero resources. But they found a way to program their minds in a self-empowering way. And that's also why I decided to coach women and help them connect with their power. Because here's the thing. We shouldn't have to suffer so much to learn our lessons. There is a better way. There is a more fulfilling way. So today we're here to get to learn what we can do to empower ourselves. We've all been told that in order to be successful, we need a success mindset. Yes? But what exactly is a success mindset? So let me tell you about a client of mine. Her name is Susie. And so Susie goes to Tony Robbins events and she reads all these self-help books and she repeats affirmations like, I am successful and I can do anything. Sorry. And she's all about mindset and she's taking all the actions. But for whatever reason, she's not getting the results she wants. Well, let me tell you why. Because most people do not go beyond the conscious. But the truth is, and as you may have heard, 95% of our behavior is driven by our subconscious mind. And our conscious mind is only the legendary tip of the iceberg. So we think we're in control, but most of the time we are really not. What's in control is our subconscious programming and the stuff that's under the water. We could think of our subconscious as a computer script that's been filled up with a bunch of data from our own experiences, even from our ancestors' experiences. And all that stuff that we pick up from the collective unconscious all the time, from the world that surrounds us. So maybe you have stepped on a train someday, all happy, and left the train at your destination cranky. Has it ever happened to you? It's happened to me a lot. And that's probably because we pick up some of that stuff, some of that negative stuff that's in the air, as we say. And this computer script, with all that stuff, this unconscious script, with all this data, is constantly running in the background, and it pretty much keeps us on autopilot. And depending on how it's programmed, it may be slowing down your success, despite all your hard work. And the good news is, we can change our programming. We can even change our genes through new programming and heal our body through our mind, as we know nowadays. But the bad news is, many of us reinforce our limiting mental and emotional programs every single day. So we think about 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And how much of that do you think is repetitive? Well, it's 90% of those thoughts that are repetitive. Isn't that crazy, right? So this the same as the day before. And if we all agree that our thoughts determine our feelings and our actions, and our feelings and actions eventually become our reality and our habits, then that means that we create the same reality, and often unwanted reality, over and over again. So let's just for a moment imagine that 90% of those thoughts could actually be positive and empowering. Just think about what an amazing reality, what incredible success you could create for yourself. So if we consider that we are truly limitless and most human beings only use a small percentage of their potential, then imagine what that success could look like. If you could turn your thoughts around into more empowering thoughts, what position would you have? How much would you be selling in your business, or what clients would you work with? What stages would you be speaking on? How much money would you be making? And where would you travel in your next vacation? What causes would you support? Just imagine the impact you could have if you used even just double the potential you're using now. So the first question is the majority of your thoughts positive and empowering, or is it negative, fearful, and disempowering? Are you thinking your thoughts, or are your thoughts thinking you? So the first step to a self-empowering mindset is to become the observers of our thoughts, to uncover limiting subconscious scripts, and to change our programming. We must get rid of the negative thought and fear viruses, as I call them. So these are really viruses in our brain or in our mind. Our mind is our brain in action, right? And we must upgrade our software. We upgrade our subconscious programming so we can more consciously create the success we want and the career we want. And so we can implement our vision, live our dream, and make the impact we really want to make in the world. Create the change we want to create and to live our dream. I realize that some of you may have heard all of this before, of course. But be honest, how much have you really practiced on a daily basis? And have you really taken enough action on this knowledge? Have you taken action consistently every single day? And I'm curious to hear from some of you what you have tried and what you have consistently practiced. So if you'd like to share some of this in the chat box or in the question box here, this would be great. Can we see anything in the chat box, Elizabeth?
I'm not seeing anything at this point.
Okay, maybe we can then
if anybody has questions or anything, if anyone has anything, you might put it in questions from the audience.
Okay,
we can share
great.
that.
Yeah. So one thing I'm pretty sure of, many of you are working really, really hard. But you could be working really hard and still never achieve your dream. And it's quite amazing how stuff that happens in your personal life will actually affect how you're showing up at work and in your business. So in my client through these cases, we were talking about this. It turned out that she grew up with two brothers, and she had never been allowed to outshine her brothers. Quite the opposite. She was supposed to be protected by her brothers. And although she was incredibly smart, she was always supposed to diminish her brilliance so her brothers could shine. And she learned to downplay her own role and keep her brilliance to herself. And she learned that she was nobody without her brothers. And she needed her brothers to take care of her. She also learned that leaders were usually male. So here she's at work with this mindset of, I can do anything and I'm going to just push through and I'm going to make this happen. But she's not able to, because there's this subconscious script running that she needs her brothers to take care of her. And her brothers are not there, and she cannot be a leader because most leaders around her are still male. So in this case, we got to the root of the issue, and then I helped her move through what was holding her back, and we did some deep transformational work together that went way beyond the scope of this webinar. But the first step was really awareness, and there's a lot you can do by yourself. So I did not make her move back and relive the experience, because the awareness itself was really enough for her to make a decision. She decided that her past didn't have to define her present life and her future. And once we knew what her limiting subconscious script was, she experienced a breakthrough. Now, when you have a breakthrough, you are now able to get to the other side. And we used this breakthrough to recondition her thinking and get her unstuck so she could catch that promotion she wanted. We went ahead and we interrupted existing neural networks that were responsible for her limiting patterns, and we created new neural networks. It's like rewiring your brain, because today we know that we are not completely hardwired. What's hardwired are only our survival mechanisms, like breathing, like the functioning of our organs, but not other types of our behavior, our habits. So we can rewire to change those. And as we rewire, we can break limiting patterns and achieve things that previously seemed impossible. So we rewire and we create new neural connections, and we recondition ourselves. And we can even change our genes, as we now know, and as I said before. We write a new computer script for our mind and upgrade to an empowering mindset. And this is how we can achieve success more easily. So I have an assignment for you today. Take out a piece of paper and a pen and write down one goal that you have that you feel stuck with right now. And then write down what you think the reason is why you cannot reach this goal. Maybe it's, I'm not qualified enough, or I don't have the right connection, or maybe you think that there's too much competition, or you don't have the right resources, not enough money, not enough time, whatever it is for you. Write it down. And now look at what you wrote and ask yourself, is this really true? Is this reason really keeping me from attaining, from attracting, and from achieving what I want? There are people who are millionaires without a college degree. There are people who grew up in very humble circumstances, who found the right connections because they knocked on doors and on many doors until one of them opened. There are people who make fortunes during economic downturns. And when it comes to time, we all have the same amount of time, 24 hours a day. We all have all kinds of circumstances. So it's time to put all these excuses to the side and ask yourself, what if I actually could reach this goal? What if there was a way to reach this goal? What if it could be easier than I thought? And what if I had everything it takes to get there? I found that what if questions, and they have to be positive what if questions, of course, can sometimes work better than affirmations. Many of you probably have practiced affirmations, and they can be very powerful, but when our affirmations don't sound believable to our subconscious, and then our subconscious might actually reject them, and that could actually be counterproductive. So they have to be believable. A question, on the other hand, opens up opportunities, and it inspires our mind to look for an answer, for a solution. A what-if question recognizes that there's potential for change, a new possibility, and it changes our thinking. And all of a sudden, you're able to see other options. Another way of saying what if, by the way, is what would it look like if? Or what could it look like if? And your mind then will automatically search for an image that matches this question. Or you could also ask, what would it feel like if? And your brain will then look for a corresponding feeling. So this can be really powerful. And a what if question can put you on a path from I can't to I can. So how many of you have heard that you have to face reality? Probably every single person on this call has heard this at some point in your life, right? So the truth is, if you give too much attention to your negative reality, you will get stuck in it. Whether right now you don't have enough money, or you're not getting promoted, or you don't have enough clients, whatever it is, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And what we focus on expands, it gets bigger. And the more we focus on our current reality, the more of the same we will create. Because again, we think the same thoughts and produce the same feelings through our thoughts. So a focus on a lack creates more lack. Whether it's a lack of money, whether it's a lack of success, or a missing promotion, doesn't really matter. So we must refocus and look in a different direction. So rather than facing our reality, let's change our approach and create it. Creating reality starts in our minds. So we create it every single second anyway, unconsciously, whether we want that or not. It's automatic, right? So because our thoughts and emotions create our reality all the time. So why not create what we really want? Be more conscious about creating what we want. So I want to do exactly that with you today. I want you to think of one thing that you want to create for yourself in your business, in your career by the end of 2018. Yes, so one thing. You still have a month to go. It's not the end of this year. And it should be one thing that's really important to you and that you have a strong desire for. And write that thing down. Because it's really proven that what we write down is easier to achieve. So let's create that one thing together. But before we do, I want to do a little experiment, with you that gets you prepared for this exercise. I want you to sit with your feet on the floor and upright. Really sit upright and relax your shoulders. And now turn to your left as far as you can. And then remember the farthest left spot that you can see with your left eye. So turn all the way to your left as far as you can, and then remember that spot. And then come back to center. And now close your eyes for me and imagine that your head can turn all the way around to the left. 360 degrees, like there's no break in your neck. And imagine you can turn your head like an owl. You go around and around and around, always turning to the left side. The way this works best for me is to picture a line that goes around in a circle around my head and that I follow with my mind's eye. And do a few more rounds of that. And then open your eyes. And then now, with your eyes open, turn again to your left as far as you can and turn all the way as far as you can get. All the way as far as you can get. And remember that spot that you see now from the farthest left corner of your left eye. And then come back to center. And I'm curious, what did you observe? Could you maybe turn further? So when I do this exercise at a live event, most people will always turn further the second time. And that's the power of visualization. Yes, because visualization is such a powerful tool. And it's a tool that Olympic athletes have used for decades to win their gold medals. In fact, anyone who has ever invented something has used visualization, from the wheel to the airplane to the laptop, anything you can imagine, yes? So all inventors have a vision first before their invention materializes. Visualization bridges the gap between what we have and what we want, between where we are and where we want to be. Yes. So now, before we go into the visualization exercise, again, I wanted to expand a little more on what visualization does actually here. It changes our subconscious filters. We are exposed to 40 billion bits of information per second, but our subconscious only lets in 2,000 bits at a time. And it's just as much as we can process. We cannot process more than that, yes? And that's why it only lets in 2,000 bits. So what it lets in depends on our filters, our programming, and visualization changes those filters. This motivates our subconscious mind to watch out for opportunities that help us get closer to our goal and that we might not otherwise see. And it inspires our mind's creativity. And last but not least, positive visualization also raises our vibration so we can actually attract the people and the resources that are necessary to attain our goal. And that's why so many people use visualization techniques and vision boards to achieve their dreams. So now I invite you to bring that goal back. Sorry, I was a little fast here with the slides. I invite you to bring that goal back to your mind, and the same goal that you wrote down earlier. And read through it for a moment. And now close your eyes for a moment and see that goal as if it had already happened. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Maybe it even has a taste or a smell. Most importantly, what does it feel like to reach this goal? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling fulfilled? Maybe relieved? Maybe proud, confident? And see that situation with your inner eyes. Play a mental movie of it and go through the entire experience in your mind. experience your goal as if you were already living it. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between your visionary reality and material reality, and it'll program the data you feed into it through your conscious thoughts and visioning. So you're absolutely free to create this goal for yourself, and you're meant to create what you want, even before this year ends, even if you have only this month left. So breathe in this freedom for a moment and see your goal achieved. And then open your eyes. So did this feel real to you? That's cool, because actually it can be real. So what if it could be real? Remember the empowering what-if questions that we talked about earlier. Another empowering question to ask here is, as we did during the visualization, what would it be like and feel like if I had this? And that's exactly the questions I wanted to ask as you do this visualization again for yourself, when you do it by yourself, because you can do it every single day, and this will actually reinforce the creation of the reality you want. So it's a matter of continuing this vision every single day now. Each morning of the month of December, bring this vision back into your mind's eye and bring your achieved goal back into your mind's reality for a couple of minutes, or even longer if you'd like. And then I'd be super curious to hear from you as you create this reality for yourself. So feel free to email me at regina@transformyourperformance.com or through the contact page of my website with your results. Exciting. So then, of course, I recommend that you have a written overall vision. And many of you probably already have that, a longer term vision of what you really want in your life, what you want in your career or in the business. What do you want that to look like? So as I said, many of you probably have it already, but some of you may not. And it's really important to have a written vision, because it's proven that what we write down is easier to achieve. For some of you, it may be time to review your vision and to adapt it, because you have grown and your life has changed and your circumstances have changed. And sometimes our vision changes as we grow, and as new opportunities open up around us, and that's when we need to change course. So now let's look at something that's just as exciting as your mindset, and that's actually inseparably connected with your mindset, and that's your heart set. Because self-empowerment also relies on a healthy heart set. So what is it that's in your heart? Your heart holds a lot of intelligence. It helps you access your intuition. It is where you can most easily access and tap into your courage. And in fact, the words heart and courage in many languages are the same, like in French, where it's cœur and courage, and even in German, the old word for mutig, which would be courageous nowadays, is beherzt, and the word for heart is herz. And in Portuguese, coração, coragem. In Spanish, coração, coraje. In Italian, cuore, coraggio, and the list goes on. Many, many languages have that. So it's really not surprising that we can access our courage most easily in our heart. And our heart is also about connection with others. It's about that the connection we can establish with others, even on a phone call or on a video call. It doesn't always have to be only in person. Our heart also helps us hold a desire for positive change and really create that positive change. And it can hold the drive to make an impact on other people's lives. It holds feelings. So it's also the center for our positive thinking and our positive feeling. So whenever you go into an important meeting or into a difficult conversation or into a speaking situation in front of an audience, it's really key to open up your heart energy first. So how do we do that? Well, you can use your breath and to just breathe into your heart, and that might just be enough for you. So take a big inhale and exhale into your heart area, into your chest. Or you could do it visually, imagining your heart center to open up. And you can also do it with your posture by opening up your chest and your shoulder area. Or you can do it just with the intention to open up your heart. We often think we have to overcomplicate these things, but that's not true. It's not supposed to be complicated. It's supposed to be accessible and easy for all of us. So according to several studies, and one is by heartmath.org, I invite you to check out their website, our heart constantly communicates with our brain. Now, that wouldn't be so surprising because, of course, our entire body is constantly in communication with our brain, and our brain in action as well, which is our mind, as I said earlier. But what's surprising is that our heart communicates in 4 ways. It communicates neurologically, so through the transmission of nerve impulses, biochemically, through hormones and neurotransmitters, biophysically, through pressure on pulse waves, and energetically through electromagnetic field interactions. And there's certainly a lot more to that and a lot more to read up on. But we cannot go into all the details here today. So I invite you to check this out on the HeartMath or other websites that you might find. This will go a little bit beyond the scope of this session. But one way of noticing this connection is through your heartbeat. You have certainly noticed that your heart starts to race under certain circumstances that are not induced by physical exercise necessarily, yes, such as nervousness or positive excitement or the butterfly feeling as you fall in love with someone and your heart starts to beat faster, or just any kind of ecstasy, yes? So what are some other ways that you have felt that heart-brain connection? I invite you to think about that and maybe also share with that in the questions or in the chat box section. We also say we make decisions with our heart. But what does that really mean? So we listen to our intuition and to our emotional side rather than just our rational side. And when we do, this often helps us make the better decisions. I think many women relate more naturally to this concept than most men. And I think this is something that's really worth bringing to the business table, ladies. So what we need more in business, what we currently need more in business of, I think, is not more competition, which takes far too much of our energy. Yes, we want to be strategic, but we don't want to put all this energy into competing all the time. All this precious energy that we can use for other things, like for ways to get ahead, to get what we want. And I'm a huge fan, for that reason, of co-creation and of collaboration rather than competition. And we could do a whole other webinar on this topic because I just love the topic of co-creation. But for now, I think what we can agree on is that in business, we could use an extra portion of compassion, an extra portion of understanding and listening with our hearts, and using our heart intelligence, our intuition in negotiations. It's proven that women tend to be more intuitive when it comes to reading between the lines and words in negotiations. So men actually do themselves a favor when they bring women to the negotiating table. And when they listen, and when these women actually listen to what what they can pick up to the conversation and pass it on to the men. Because it's often something that goes beyond the words that are spoken at the table. Because we women bring so much to the table of business. And there's, of course, much more to talk about here, but I know that we are coming towards the end of our session together today. So let me wrap up here before we go into the questions. So what you have seen today is a little teaser of my system, Powerful Leadership Transformation, or PLT, that I take my clients through and I teach workshops on. And most of my clients want to feel more confident in their careers. They want to be more visible and move ahead faster and be more powerful leaders. Some want higher sales, some want more clients. And in order to achieve any of these goals, we need a self-empowering mindset. We must know how to distinguish ourselves with our distinctive uniqueness. We must step into a confident, compelling presence, which is also a body and energy conscious presence. And of course, we must take action, do the right things. And that's what leads us faster and bigger to the result. What leads us faster to bigger results and to more success. We all have it in us, in our own way, but we must believe it to bring it to the surface. And that's sometimes easier when we have someone by our side who believes in us, and that's why I created the PLT system. So I want to leave you with this. If you think you're too small to make a difference, you've never spent the night with a mosquito. And this is an African proverb. But take it from someone who must know, because I have had both dengue fever, dengue fever and malaria, and both are transmitted by a tiny mosquito. So you are as big and powerful as you dare to step into your power. And it starts with a self-empowering mindset. So don't be selfish and keep your wisdom and your brilliance to yourself. Share it with us. Share it with those who need it most. It's my mission to help women to the top because we need you. The world needs you. And we can only achieve more peace and wealth for all when we have more women in influential positions as leaders, whether in corporate, in politics, in arts, or as business owners, as entrepreneurs. So I have a gift for you. If you're committed to creating positive change for yourself and taking a leap ahead, I'd love to offer you 30 minutes of my time where I'll help you with one strategy for a specific situation. And the first 5 ladies that email me or text me get one of these 5 sessions. This is a $300 value, and I only have time on my schedule for 5 before the year ends. So please only text or email me if you're serious about creating positive change for yourself and if you're really planning to show up for this, okay? So the first person who emails or texts me also gets my book for free, because I like to reward empowered action and get a Kindle version of my book as well. So, do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Regina. That's a very generous offer. We have a few people that provided feedback from.
My pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. We have a few people that offered some of their feedback from your question earlier. One person said they take at least an hour each week and set D&D and do some strategic thinking. Someone else said that they're trying to put more time into each day, at least an hour and a half a week. Someone said, I'm consistently inconsistent. I try to meditate, chant, etc. for a while, and then life gets in the way. I get sidetracked and I get stuck. How do I fight against this?
Okay, I want to inspire you with a quick client story. So I started working with a client about 5 weeks ago, and she started the most powerful thing she's ever done since we started working together is just to do her daily morning routine. And it doesn't have to be an hour, really. It can be 20 minutes. It can be even 15 minutes if you think you don't have more time. Although I think we always save a lot of time if we actually do this. So she said this was the most empowering thing. It changed her entire life and her entire day. And even people at work are telling her how much more radiating she looks, and she just shows up much more powerfully in her career. So I would really inspire you to try this out. Start with 15 minutes. Yes?
Okay, great. And a number of people, someone else said, let's see, they go through a process of writing each morning, then they lead to write affirmations for the day to give strength, specifically connected to how you're feeling. Next, write how you're grateful. And this is how you can feel and how to be more general. Finally, you write down intentions for the day and ways you reconnect. Pretty remarkable how you can rewrite your mindset. And a number of people said they could turn farther after your turning exercise as well.
Okay, I like to do all these things in the morning because then my day doesn't get in the way of it. Again, so it's a great idea to do it in the morning. If you can't for any reason, it's also the evening is also a good point in time because then you prepare for your next day. And I just really think it's really important to do it consistently. And what has helped me do it consistently is to focus on my written vision. I have both a vision board and a vision. And in the middle of my vision board, I did my vision board on my computer. So it's my screensaver. And my vision board has the continent of Africa in the middle. And in the last 18 months, I've traveled to Africa 4 times. And I've spent about 4 months in Africa doing work with women and with startups. And, it's just, I know it's also been a result of all my efforts in networking, but it's also been a result of this daily visualization and daily reinforcement, for sure. Does this answer the question?
Great. Someone just else chimed in. I have positive affirmations for my office. I jot down 5 things I'm grateful for and share that with a good friend. This opens up a great conversation and increases our awareness.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
And increases our awareness.
Yes, it increases our awareness. Absolutely. Yes, and I'm seeing it here now on the screen as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, gratefulness is very important because it also focuses our mind in the right direction, right? So if we complain about things, then oftentimes we get more of those things that we complain about. Have you ever noticed that? So when we are grateful, a lot of people have probably heard of the law of attraction. Well, the law of attraction works at any given moment, right? It's not that we are using it only when we're using it consciously. We're using it all the time, consciously or unconsciously. So if we focus on something that's undesirable, usually we get more of that. And if we focus on something that we are really grateful for, then the law of attraction says, okay, here you have more. Here you have more. Here you have more of the good stuff. Right? So it's really cool that you do that you write down 5 things that you're grateful for. And I think that's also what some of the most successful people do.
Great. This has been excellent, Regina. I think we're kind of running out of time here. So I'm going to wrap it up quickly for the top of the hour. Did you have anything else, Regina, that you wanted to cover?
No, I just really wanted to. I see that I have received some text messages already, and I will check on my email and on the time they have come in just a bit. And then, of course, if you're not ready for a session to talk about your strategy quite yet at this point, then you can always pick up my book. It's on Amazon as Kindle or in print. It's also on my website, transformyourperformance.com. Somebody also said that it would have been nice to have a handout or a reference sheet. I can certainly also think about making one if that's useful for your audience. So that would be my pleasure.
Great. Thank you so much, Regina. It was great having you. As a reminder, we're going to be sending out the recording, the presentation after this, and so everyone will have Regina's contact information. And just a reminder, we have a couple more webinars in the next couple of weeks before the holidays. On December 4th, building a business from passion to profit. And then on December 12th, self-promotion strategies to advance your career. Thank you again to Regina and to all our attendees for your time. Yes, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day, yes, or evening, or whatever it is for you.